What if pleasure was not something you had to earn, perform, or fix, but something your body already knew how to access? For so many people, especially as they age, pleasure becomes complicated by shame, fear, or the belief that it is too late. Welcome to Pleasure Principles, the space where we explore intimacy, embodiment, and pleasure with honesty, respect, and curiosity. I'm your host Yusuf, and today I'm joined by Linda Landon, a life and intimacy coach and creator of the Ignite method. Linda helps individuals and couples reconnect with pleasure, especially later in life, by working with the body, not against it. In this episode, we'll explore her deeply personal journey, how pleasure can be reclaimed after 50, and how aging, menopause, and desire shifts can become doorways rather than dead ends. With that, I welcome my guest Linda to the show.
Thank you, Yusuf. What a beautiful, beautiful introduction.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Let's get started and play.
Yes. Linda, before we talk about methods or practices, I'd love to start with you as a human being. When you look back now, what feels like the first moment you realized your relationship with your body and pleasure needed to change?
Oh my gosh, where do we start? I'm going to go all the way back because when I was a little one, I was in pleasure. That's our natural state. And I was in touch with, especially in nature, I was just so tuned in. But early on, when I was maybe 2 or 3, whatever age you are, so that when you're standing, your eyes come to the level of like the hip of your the hips of your parents. I had an experience with my mother, which I write about in the book, where I saw her naked and I was intrigued and I wanted to reach out and touch what was happening there in that area below her, all that. I didn't even know what it was. And she slapped my hand away and said, "No, that's dirty." So that young, something came over that made me believe that experiencing curiosity and pleasure was wrong.
Mm.
So throughout my life, I did have experiences and ways to find and have pleasure, like really drop into sensation. But there was this underlying, what I call a core conclusion that, I'm dirty, I'm broken, I can't have this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Linda,
then,
how?
yeah, so I go to where it changed.
Yeah, yeah, please, please, please.
Well, because it doesn't end there. That's the beginning.
Mm.
So through my life, I would engage in relationships. I was in many relationships and I, would play and have fun and I would be sexual, but there was this place where it would stop because of this underlying core conclusion. So I couldn't fully receive and drop into pleasure. And I thought I was frigid. But in my 50s, after menopause, that's when it all changed.
Okay. And how did it change?
Well, for one thing, I decided to swear off being in an intimate relationship. I just broke up with my partner at the time, and I took some time to be with me. And then I started to explore. I went into the world of Tantra. I learned something called orgasmic meditation, and I started to discover realms of sensation and capacity for pleasure in my body, not just sexually, but throughout my body that I hadn't even tapped into. I had in other moments previously, but this is where the sexual piece dropped in. And I just lit up, and I had more access to pleasure and sensation and eros than I'd had my whole life.
Yeah. But there's this idea that pleasure naturally fades with age, that desire has an expiration date. From your experience, what do you think we get wrong about pleasure and aging?
Pleasure is, we are born into these bodies with the capacity to touch, smell, feel, all of it. We have capacity to experience sensation until the moment we die. And sensation can be pleasurable. You can even learn to experience what we call uncomfortable sensations like pain, in a way drop into it that becomes pleasurable. And this capacity to feel pleasure never leaves us. It's we shut it down with our conditioning, our thoughts,
Mhm.
our naysaying, and the culture, of course, doesn't help because it says, once you're post-menopause or as a man, once you've hit a certain age and your hormones start to change, you can hang it up.
Yeah, that's true. What stand out to me is how you separate aging from disconnection and how often we confuse the two.
Yeah. I mean, the bodies do what they do. They get older. The skin starts to fall into the pull of gravity. Things happen, lines happen, all that stuff. There's
Mm.
changes in the genitalia. But what we say about that in our mind is what shuts us down. The body's not
Mm.
shut down. It's our thinking that shuts us
Mhm.
down.
Yeah.
And I love to work with that when I work with my clients, and I address that in the book. How do you work with these thoughts that are lies that are preventing you from being in full authenticity, which includes experiencing pleasure?
Mm. Yeah. But for many couples over 50, what shows up is not just a reduced libido, but avoidance, frustration, or a feeling of being roommates instead of lovers.
Yes.
What tends to happen in those relationships when pleasure and play go unspoken for too long?
Yeah. It's like that when that well starts to dry up.
Yeah.
Right? Well, just imagine, because I know you're not 50 yet, but a couple who's been together, maybe they've raised children together, they have families, they have maybe career or work that they do that's super fulfilling, so they get pulled out to all of that. And what they leave is the sense let me say it this way. We leave ourselves. I'm not just talking about your partner. We leave ourselves. We get too engaged in what's going on out there, and we forget who we are. Who am I? What do I feel? What do I desire? What, feels good to me? And then when we lose that, how can we communicate and translate and experience that with our beloved? It's not possible.
Mhm.
So what I do with couples is I use a tool called human design to help
Mm.
them really drop back into who they are in their core being and know themselves, fully know themselves. And then through the sexuality practices, start to communicate and connect with the other through that self knowing. And worlds of connection and intimacy can open that they didn't even know was possible, that possibly they have never ever felt before. I mean, I've got a couple I work with in their 70s, and, they had an okay sex life, but now it's like they're 2 teenagers. It's like and we redefine what sex is too. We don't just call sex penetration. We open up a wide realm of possibilities for sexuality and eros. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah, it indeed is. But it again raises some more questions in my mind. One being that for most of us, like for people of my age who are very young, 20s, 30s, for them, sex is basically, the penetration. But now you just described it something more than that. Can you just specify what do you mean?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked this because I really think this information is invaluable for people as soon as they start to move into adolescence and the hormone,
Mhm.
sexual energy starts to circulate. We have been conditioned on this planet to follow what I call male-centric sex, which is the idea that you kiss, you make out, you get excited, you have, quote, "foreplay," but it's all moving to the goal of penis and vagina, climax,
Yeah.
and we're done. And you see it in
Mm.
movie it's like everywhere. And that does follow an energetic cycle of arousal that male identified or males have, but the female cycle of arousal is very, very different. It moves in ebbs and flows, and there's what I call orgasmic energy that runs throughout their bodies that's also available to men. And for the sake of this call, I'm just saying men and women, so forgive.
Okay.
This applies to all genders, all identities. So what you start to do is undo that story of male-centric sex, and you open into what I call sensing sexuality, and you discover a whole new realm of being in sensation in the moment, which is very pleasurable, and it can be as simple as just touching your fingertips together, or caressing a breast, or stroking the back of the neck. I mean, there's so many ways to evoke and touch in on eroticism, like that flow of energy. And
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
penetration may happen or not, but only when the woman or the person with the vagina is aroused enough so that it's inviting it to happen and not
Yeah.
before.
Mm. Wow. You have literally transformed the meaning of intercourse for me. It has changed from, penetration to actually feeling it, sensing. That is the key word that I took from your answer. Wow.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
You you created the Ignite method by integrating trauma awareness, embodiment, human design, and pleasure practice. Tell us about it.
Oh gosh. Well, everything that I bring to my clients is what I've experienced and lived through myself. I think you've already kind of gotten that. So the Ignite method is so it we take human design, which I mentioned briefly, and that's all of these are described in the book, and I'll give a link at the end of this to a free sample of this book. So human design is this magnificent technology that helps you understand the blueprint of who you were born to be and how to work with your limitations and your strengths and really flow through this life in this body that you have. And then the second piece of the Ignite method, sensing sexuality, is part of the theory that I just described about, moving out of male centric into a more sensing centric kind of sexuality. But it's also involves the pleasure practices, actual practices that I offer individuals and couples to do to light up and reignite sensation and pleasurable sensation in their own bodies and then connect together. And then the third piece of the Ignite method is tools for liberation, where we work with those thought patterns. We work with those limiting beliefs, what we call triggers. When you just like hit a wall or you get mad or you're just like out of whack. We work with those to clear them out because when we're triggered, we can't be present with ourselves or with our beloved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. When someone in menopause or post menopause says, I feel numb or disconnected from desire, how does your approach meet them where they are?
First of all, with compassion
Mm.
and understanding
Yes.
and kindness. And then we start to introduce very simple practices that don't involve like any genital contact at all. Like we take that off the table and we help whoever this person, I'm just thinking of so many people, including myself. We start to open doorways where they can start to feel where they do feel something in their bodies, which they do. And that numbness starts to melt away, and then there's like, "Oh, I felt that, and oh, I felt that."
Mhm.
And then and again, everybody's different. Then there's like, "Oh, I feel a little turned on." And it just goes and grows, but we start where they are with no
Yeah.
fault, no blame, just deep kindness and compassion, and we probably unwind some triggers that are contributing to this sense that I'm dead inside and, I can't get out.
Wow. I appreciate how you emphasize on sensing over performing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's I have what I call the list of things you take off the table. Performing, trying to pleasure the other, setting
Okay.
any goals, especially towards climax. We even take genitals off the table for a while. But
Uh,
this is non-performing. This is opening to the curiosity of and innocence of a young child just exploring. What happens here? And but forget performance.
you know,
There's no performance.
how I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I just say there's no performing. Performing is such a turnoff.
Yeah. Okay, yes. How does someone start approaching your way, sensing it? Let's keep genitals, let's keep you know, penetration off the table. How should someone start it?
Do we have like 2 minutes?
Yeah, yeah, we have.
I could guide us right now through a really simple, like, modification of one of the pleasure practices in the book, just to show you.
Yeah, let's go. Why not?
Okay, so you can do this with eyes open, eyes closed, and I'm just making this up as we go. So I invite you to
Perfect.
close your eyes in this moment,
Mhm.
and so for all the listeners, just close your eyes and begin by sensing and noticing that you're breathing. And maybe you feel some air circulating in and out through your nose. Oh, maybe you feel a little rising, falling sensation in your chest. And remember, there's no right way to do this. Now, as you're being with your breath, can you bring your attention? Just notice what you're feeling in your hands, particularly your fingertips. Like, notice if your hands are resting on your lap or on some other surface. And then and we're doing this a little faster than I would in another situation, but going to invite you to very slowly bring your hands up in front of your chest if you can, and allow your fingertips to be hovering across from each other, barely touching. So there's a little air between the fingertips of the right hand and the left hand. Keep breathing, be with your breath, and then slowly allow the fingertips to come together, very gently touching. And notice what you feel: heat, coolness, electricity, blankness. Everything is fine. And now I'll let, I'm going to invite you to sort of press the fingers together and then soften and allow them to come a little bit apart. Press them together and then bring your palms together and notice what you feel now. Any warmth, coolness, dryness, coolness, stickiness. And then finally, ask your body right here, right now, is there any place I would like to be touched right now? Could be your neck, your chest, your nose, your lips, your thigh. And then very slowly, let your left hand come back to a resting place and bring your right hand to just very gently touch that place that wants contact. You're not performing, you're just meeting, having a little meeting, a little conversation with that part of your body. Make sure your hand is relaxed. You're not pressing, you're just making contact. and feel how that feels. Warmth, coolness. Does the breath soften? Does anything else in your body relax or tense? And then as you're ready, again, if you were to do this alone, you could do this much longer. Just allow your hand to come away and back to resting. And take a moment to notice, what are you feeling right here, right now? And then as you're ready, we open our eyes. And Yusuf, if you feel like it, you can share anything you're noticing or not. Yeah.
Mm. Wow. First of all, it was, I would say, very peaceful and peaceful experience for me these past 2 minutes. And I was following your voice as if I could hear it, the only thing in this world as of now. And so for me, the contact place was just my chest part. Uh, and when you were asking what are you feeling, I felt some sparks. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
Some sparks, some warmth in my fingers, and when I touched it after touching both of my hands together, it, it really felt, I would say, good. And lack of a better word, I'm sorry.
That's the word. It felt good.
Mm.
And you felt the spark.
Yeah.
So imagine bringing this kind of sensitized awareness into
Mm.
in interaction with your lover.
Wow. Linda, for listeners who want to learn more about your work or explore the Ignite method, where can they find you?
You can go to my website, igniteyourjoy.us. You can also email me at linda@igniteyourjoy.us. And I know you have show notes, yes? And I believe I sent you a link.
Yeah.
So if the listener, excuse me, would like a sample of my new book, Pleasure Past 50, there will be a link for that. But you'll also find a link to the sample of the book on the homepage of my website. So either way, there it is, and you can find it. And you can start to dive in and experience what my offerings through the book.
Perfect. Listeners, all these links are in the show notes, so just go and check those out. Linda, is there any last message that you want to leave us with?
If you ask me that, I feel my whole body light up. So this is the message. We were born to experience the delight of pleasure.
Mm.
It's available to all of us, no matter our age, our physical, whatever, even if we have physical limitations, it's available to all of us. And it enlivens and increases vitality. It's good for your health.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on Pleasure Principles today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Indeed, pleasure was all mine. And to all our listeners, if this conversation stirred something in you, let it be an invitation, not a demand. Pleasure begins with listening. And pleasure isn't something you lose with age, it is something you remember when safety, presence, and self return to your body. Until
Mm.
next time, take care of your body, your heart, and your capacity for joy.